A Okay, I think we're gonna go with whatever we've got. Let me get this all shared out. Discord, you've got me on audio there? You've got us good?
Yep.
All right, let me make sure this goes. I think we're gonna go with whatever we've got. This will be not too long. This will be a pretty quick one. I've got our first slide up. I just need to get this shared out to all of our partners, and then we will get started. And thanks for everyone joining us here. Always fun with a little bit of technical difficulties. It wouldn't be any fun without it, right? So here we go. Just a moment or two here. The group has definitely gotten together. It looks great. Thanks for the guys on board online, getting us all organized here. I appreciate that and your help. Just got a couple more partners to share this to, and then we should be good to go. If you weren't on just earlier, if this hadn't gone live, we will be doing a pretty interesting topic today. We'll be talking a little bit about what alcohol does to our endurance performance, but more importantly, how we could hedge our bets and make it work for us here. So, and things that we could do to kind of limit or hedge our bets as far as being able to indulge during those times and kind of still be able to meet our goals. So, not able to get the Zwift game up and running in our stream, but I do have our slides. So let me go ahead and forward our slides so people know that we're kind of moving forward here. I'll get us to where we need to go, and then we'll kind of go from there. All right, so I guess I'll go ahead and get started. We're about 9 minutes into the ride. Thanks again for everybody who helped us keep this all organized on the main screens here. I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Jason Flores. I go by JFlow here in the game. So welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. Quick medical disclaimer that the only purpose of this live stream is to educate and to inform, and it's not a substitute for professional care by a doctor or any other qualified professional. It's a live stream is provided on the understanding that it does not constitute medical or professional advice. All right. All right, so the goals of the live stream are to present current articles in the media in covering food and hydration and how it relates to sports, and to open up a dialogue for viewers to ask questions, to get advice, that sort of thing about their own experiences. Yep. All right, so today's article, as well as a lot of other really interesting articles you can find at precisionhydration.com. We've been talking a lot about hydration and kind of how a lot of that ties into the things that we need to do, and kind of a close look we need to take into these sort of things to really be able to just understand better what we need to do, what we need to take in during sport, in between, and that sort of thing. All right, we'll move to the next slide here. Perfect. All right, so why giving up alcohol does wonders for our performance. There's two kind of main topics that we're looking at. We want to try to understand a bit better the relationship between alcohol and our performance. And then secondly, how to hydrate if you do treat yourself out to a night out. Let's see. Asking if the live stream is up, and it does look like it is working there. All right, so those two things are the topics we're going to kind of cover and help sort out. So let's move on. All right, so essentially, when we're looking at the relationship between alcohol and our performance, one of the main reasons that we find or that we hear that alcohol is bad for us is that it's harmful because of essentially the diuresis, or that alcohol essentially is making the body flush out more and more water out of the body, and that is what's causing the what is it? And that's what's causing the problem here. So when you do consume alcohol, what it does is it keeps dumping out more and more water from your body. Oh my gosh, the Zwift live video just keeps repeating. What's going on? All right, let's double check to make sure it is something else. Let's jump to the next slide here. All right, so next slide here. All right, so on top of that, the relationship also ties into our muscle function and recovery. And this is the part that does give us some information that might be able to help us understand just a bit better what it actually does. And the effects, or the hangover effects, or the after effects, can really affect motor skills, reaction times, and reaction speeds dramatically. So it does play havoc on your neurological system, and essentially ends up being really bad for any of the sports that require neurological coordination per se. So pedaling right foot, left foot, keeping balance, that sort of thing, can all play a factor here in cycling. So definitely something that we would want to, that we could definitely not want to affect in our performance. I'm still trying to get everything shared out. That's the reason why this is kind of choppy here. All right, so second part of that is that studies have actually shown that even moderate amounts, I mean small amounts of alcohol consumed after hard exercise can impair muscle recovery. So we're talking about, your post-ride drinks, consumptions and things like that. A lot of times, a lot of these things are tied into like social gatherings afterwards, and that's all normal and it's all good. I'm not saying that you're not to do that, but I think it is important, as educated riders, that we are able to understand kind of what that does for us. And so definitely muscle recovery will be impaired, but a lot of times, like I said, and I'll kind of tie this all together here at the end, a lot of times we do this in a time where like you're peaking and it's finishing, and you've got a couple days to kind of recover, and we understand that what it's going to do for us. And as long as we do understand that, I think there is something to that that will allow us to kind of enjoy. So it definitely can hamper long-term fitness and gains from the exercise you have just done. So things to understand. All right, and then secondly here, let's see, we've got that it could also, as far as alcohol, it actually, the function of how it works, it actually opens up your blood vessels. It's what's called a vasodilator. And so what that does is that it allows more blood flow to different areas, and you may think, oh, that's pretty good. The problem is that you can get some swelling in areas that have had some damage, especially after exercise. So active bringing that blood back to the body in order to help it recover is very important. So it can slow down in that respect because there's just blood kind of accumulating in different areas of the body because of that, and that's where you can get swelling of usually extremities or other parts of the body. So it seems likely that having a few drinks after training or competing is probably unlikely to do you many favors in the short term, but definitely something that we can be informed about to make an informed decision about all of this. Yeah. All right, so the next portion is the effects on our body weight. So of course, alcohol contains packed full of energy. You're looking at about almost double the amount of energy that is contained in carbohydrates. So it's looking at 7 calories per gram of alcohol versus the 4 grams from carbohydrates. So even a modest amount of alcohol can actually contribute to unwanted gain when essentially tallied up over the course of a night. So definitely very important to kind of consider that. All right, so how that translates onto the bike, you're looking at you're looking at essentially more body fat because of the accumulation of excess calories, and this is clearly not going to make any of us go faster. So definitely another good reason to moderate your alcohol intake. Okay, so how do you rehydrate yourself? And so the question goes like this. So we've got our information here in front of us. We know kind of how it affects the body, the neurological factors, and that sort of thing, and also as far as the diuresis, or the increase of water output, of us putting water out of our body, so we're having trouble to hydrate. So those are the things that we're looking at. The next question is what can we do? How we can slow these things down, and I guess how the everlasting question is how can we get rid of our hangovers? So I've got three little things that we can talk about. We can chat, and that can kind of hedge our bets here. So we're going to be talking about essentially moderation, and we hear this all the time. So essentially, now that you know the facts, what you'd like to do, or at least ideally want to do, is to be able to make a decision. The second thing is add water, and I've got some tricks that may be able to help, and they kind of fall in line with a lot of the hydration or the hydrating things that we do. And then also planning accordingly as far as training and your racing. Okay, so looking at moderation, it's very boring, obviously, to say, hey, don't drink that much and that sort of thing, but it is definitely a powerful concept. So there's a lot of issues around alcohol and performance, but they're highly dependent on the amount. So obviously, we come into social interactions, especially around cycling, that may give us an opportunity to consume or to enjoy, or to socially engage with this sort of thing, but definitely something that you have a choice in doing. And so one of the things that we can do is that a sensible idea is to add water into the mix while you're out. For me, or actually reading the article, or things that I do, is you can actually hydrate before, after, and then it can definitely kind of hedge your bets here. Essentially, you want to hydrate as if you're almost getting yourself ready for an event. So you're looking at a good amount of sodium in a drink, something like 500 mLs or 2 cups of water with like a good quarter teaspoon of salt to really get an amount of hydration into the body beforehand. Can definitely do the body some good as far as hydrating yourself. And then during, kind of essentially sneaking in or just mixing in water or hydration as you go through, whether it be in the form of water, or whether it be in the form of any other non-alcoholic drink, could definitely make a difference to kind of mix things up in a social setting to keep yourself ahead of it. So a lot of times people talk about almost kind of a 1-to-1, where there'll be riders. You can go like, 1 drink for 1 drink of water, and that way you'll have like 1 glass and 1 glass. That way you're kind of balancing out the fluids here, and that's kind of one way to do it, kind of keep yourself ahead of it. But in the end, what you could do is afterwards is typically what is kind of what I go for, is that beforehand, and definitely right after, I'm doing a high amount of water with a good amount of, recommending a good amount of salt intake. And that can help. So something as simple as like I said, 500 mLs of water beforehand with about a quarter teaspoon of salt. And if you haven't ever done this amount of salt in the water, it is about 1,500 grams of salt. So it is a lot. It is a good amount. Definitely an amount that you could taste, but it helps balance or bring in that water versus just dump it straight through, which is what all the other alcohol and drinks or mixed drinks that you'll be having will be doing, essentially pushing everything straight out. So that's definitely an idea. And then kind of wrapping, it's definitely you can plan accordingly. Essentially, you want to plan your training around any big nights out, so that you're not having to do anything super strenuous, essentially that next morning, or that next bit, that the next day, for having to jump back on that next morning to be like super ambitious to get a huge SST session in or something like that. So I think it's important to be realistic in that sense, because otherwise we're just kind of tricking ourselves. So planning your training, so essentially maybe getting a big training night in the night before, the day or the night before you go out, or ending your training block, or ending your your big race with some open uses of being able to drink with friends, and just understanding that it affects the other things, and definitely definitely acceptable in that respect. So with that, planning accordingly and getting yourself rehydrated are things that we can kind of hedge our bets. Before and after getting a good amount of good hit of like water and sodium can definitely help. Just those same things that we really help to hydrate ourselves during events can actually help rehydrate or prehydrate ourselves or hyperhydrate ourselves before we have a big night out. So just some of the things as you kind of go out, you're going to have a night out, get some good training in, get some, just the same way you would if you were, let's say, to go on vacation, you kind of load your TSS, get your workout and all of that sorted out. That way you could be able to kind of enjoy the night. And then as the night ends, then you would be able to kind of jump up and get yourself rehydrated again by getting a good amount of fluids in as well as some sodium. So kind of a fun topic. It was kind of off the cuff. We did have some other things planned for this week, but it's nice to have some small topics here and there to be able to jump in. Struggling a little bit with technology today, but definitely was able still to get this out. I do apologize to everyone. But any questions I can answer, but if anything else, I can definitely post up the article. It's definitely a very interesting article to kind of get some information on. So, but yeah, let's see. I've got a couple posts. Hold on. Yeah, no problem. I've got Quan. I'm sure this is blasphemy. He doesn't want to watch anymore. But go ahead, Bussy. Go ahead.
So does the article mention if any type of alcohol is better than another as far as in that recovery time period? Like beer versus wine versus drinks versus whatever?
Yeah, so not in the article per se, but I have listened to and read up on a couple other things. Obviously, there are more carbohydrate heavy, I guess, sources, you would say, I guess, like as far as like beer and that sort of thing versus like hard alcohol. So in that respect, I guess small, marginal gains, I would say things that with a higher carbohydrate source, but hopefully by that time we've already started our post-recovery, kind of regimen. But in that respect, I think it all goes kind of down the negative side versus things of versus it being positive and helping recovery. But I have heard some studies, or at least anecdotal stuff that says that higher carbohydrate intake of alcohol could benefit you.
Cool.
Let's see. So we've got a couple hellos. We've got Kev Stevens saying that he came to the wrong feed zone being Scottish. That's definitely hilarious. Quan said this is blasphemy. He's not watching anymore, and he's mad because I made him feel guilty on the Friday morning because he probably just got home. In a couple hours ago, and let's see. That's about it. Just got to get some good laughs, and that's what we were going for this morning. You got to keep it light. Things happen. We weren't able to get everything up and running, but some good information, some fun stuff. So, big take home: just get yourself hydrated. Before, after, and we have some tricks. We've learned some tricks here in the feed zone to kind of do that. Kind of bring that extra bottle that you get back to the car, and it's got the ice, the water, the salt, something that you can just kind of down and get yourself hydrated. Do it before you go to sleep. Do it when you wake up, and can really help. A lot of times, the function, essentially the headache or the strain or the pain that you feel when you wake up in that, I guess in that post drinking hangover state. A lot of it is just actually being completely dehydrated. So kind of cheating that can definitely make a difference. So that's all I've got for today. Definitely check out the full article here at precisionhydration.com. And definitely a whole lot of other articles that you can enjoy there. Great information across the board. Check out their hydration solutions, and that's all I've got. So thanks for joining us today. Again, apologize for the issues, but thanks for joining on. Everyone else, I'll see you next week in the feed zone.